Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to 15 with Fosca, the podcast. I am delighted to have with me today RJ Sinclaire, who is a fellow American living in Italy. She is also an author and has a great story to tell us today. So, welcome. I'm so glad you're here on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I
So,
appreciate you asking me to be a part of this.
well, you and I have this nice sort of meet cute, if we want to put it in literary and cinematic terms, and we
Yeah.
were both we were at a Democrats Abroad fundraiser last fall, and we were both there very early, and we started chatting, and we quickly discovered that we had a lot in common, and
Mhm.
most importantly, and sort of the main reason why I invited you on the podcast today was because we are both. We were both at that point hard at work on our first novels, which we're still hard at work on, and which is, an ongoing, it's a process.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And we bonded over that. And also the fact that we're both sort of transplants in Italy.
Mhm.
And it was a nice connection. So I'm glad that we've had a lot of great conversations since. And I've said to you for a long time, I really want you to come on the podcast because I think it's important for writers out there to hear our stories also, people who have maybe put off this
Mhm.
dream for a long time to hear that there is always time and there is always possibility. So thank you again for coming today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I thought we could start just with your Italy story, which is also another thing that always intrigues our listeners, right? So, what first drew you to Italy?
So, to be honest, I moved to Italy um, about 16 years ago. But I had always wanted to come to Italy. It started when I was in the sixth grade. I like telling this story, but it's kind of long. I It started when I was in the sixth grade. Our school had this program called People Place, where every month or so they would bring in they would introduce us to a different country around the world. And so they would set up a classroom just like the country. They would introduce us to food that was native to that country, teach us a word or two, and tell us some historical facts or cultural things about the country, or sometimes clothes and music, things like that. And one day they set the class up like Italy. And I remember saying to myself when I left that class, when I grow up, I'm going to move to Italy. And, it's something that just stuck with me. Uh, anytime anything had gone on in my life or gone wrong in my life, I would say to myself, you know what, I'm going to move to Italy, and just run away from all of this. And a part of me, like deep in my heart, I guess that was something that I knew I really was going to do. But I thought at the time when I was saying it was just something that I was saying, or it could be that I put it out there into the universe. And so something, those words pulled me to Italy. And but I ended up here. Um, uh, After a divorce and a bad relationship, I told myself, okay, well, I'll go visit. And I I'll the rest I can give you over drinks, but I'll just say I ended up in Italy with two children as a single mom, and I was back and forth, and ended up marrying an Italian, and I've been here ever since. So, and I've lived in Rome. I left, came back, and now I'm living in Milan.
It's such a great story. I love your story. It's also an incredible testament, I think, to
Mhm.
your strength. And I love the fact that, at age whatever, 11 or 12, you had this idea, this sort of this seed was planted, and then
Mm-hmm.
it ended up being something that you made happen. It was something that you always had in the back of your mind as
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
okay, this will be my escape, but now
Mm-hmm.
it's your reality.
Oh yeah.
How
I
is life
remember.
how is life in Italy?
I mean, um, it's better than it would be in the US. And I will say this, I love Italy. I love being here. And I am happy. Right now, I feel like it's probably one of the best decisions I've ever made in my entire life. And actually, even on my worst day, I never regret moving here. So it's good. It's not. I can't complain. Life's. So it's not perfect because life isn't perfect. But being here is perfect for me. I'm happy here.
I love that. And I love what you said because I think it's important. I think often people do frame
Hmm.
when they think about, a move to Italy and they we
Hmm.
see all these picture perfect representations of what
Hmm.
life in Italy is or what it
Hmm.
could be, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But, even just being a single mom in Italy, which is,
Hmm.
something I can very much relate to, and
Hmm.
the challenges involved in work and, the
Hmm.
cultural differences that at first can maybe seem, cute or intriguing, then
Hmm.
become sort of, whatever bureaucratic nightmares. So I love the fact that you frame it like that, which is, something I used to say to my students is, when
Hmm.
you leave the US, it's not like you leave all your problems behind, it's like
Hmm.
your problems or whatever are with you no matter where you go, but it's how
Yeah.
you, right? It's how you
Hmm.
decide to frame
Yeah.
them, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
I want to talk about your writing,
Sure.
because it is really the primary reason I invited you on the
Hmm.
podcast today.
Hmm.
And so, sort of similarly to the way Italy was your dream, right?
Hmm.
What what was writing for you? Because obviously that's not what you've always done with your life. So, can you
Hmm.
talk a little bit more about your writing?
Okay. So, writing has always been much like, this idea that I would actually leave. Because I, had a lot of things going on in my life. I was the oldest of six children. My parents were strict military parents, and amongst that, there were other things that had happened. And I used writing as my way of escape. So when people ask me how long you've been writing, I always say I have been writing almost all of my life because if it wasn't in a journal, it was these stories, or I was always writing because it was my way of escape. So I've been doing that for many, many years. And at some point, I realized, although, I had obviously taken another path, and to be honest, I started out in school studying journalism and communication. So I did initially start in that vein, but other things happened, and I ended up going into real estate. And But I came back to it because it's part of my calling, I believe. So, or at least there's something in me that feels like I need to, put a story or whatever it's inside of me on paper. And now I'm at the point where I need to share it. So, you know.
So, can we talk a little bit about your creative process? Because I know that you are well into your novel, which we're going to
Hmm.
discuss in a second.
Hmm. Hmm.
But do you have any rituals? I always ask my guests about this, my guests who are creatives, because I find
Hmm.
everyone's routines kind of fascinating.
Hmm.
What is your current writing ritual?
So, it's interesting that you asked that question because um, it changes
Mm,
for me because maybe I haven't found my like real rhythm. I don't know. But one thing for sure is that when I if there's something bubbling inside of me, usually I wake up in the middle of the night,
mm,
and like sometimes I'll have a dream about something, or I'm just thinking about, I can't sleep because I'm thinking about something. And I'll write whatever it is that I'm thinking about, I'll write that out at the moment. A lot um, of my process is first writing with pen and paper. So I'll find something and just start writing something down. And then I eventually, kind of put that all together and, type it out on my computer. And so in I don't know if this is the right word to say, but I usually write in a very, even though it sounds like it's all over the place, it's not. Those are the ideas of constructing the story. But when I'm ready to write, I understand what I know the story is. I write kind of in a linear way, but then I'll go back sometimes and change some things because then I've had a dream and I know, oh no, she's supposed to do this at this time. And then I'll change that. But usually a story, just when it comes to me, it comes to me. And then when I get down and start typing it on the computer, I mean, I don't always wake up in the middle of the night. As I told you about my crime fiction, I had this idea, and then I came home and started writing about it. But and when I start writing about, the story comes to fruition as I'm writing. It's not like and so it's kind of just something that's in, and it's being created that way. I've seen other writers, and I've always said to myself, "Oh, I wish I could do that." Like kind of build a world, and then. But mine is just, it's not like that.
Yeah,
So.
and I don't think it. I think that we often, I think
Mm-hmm.
we're very hard on ourselves in general.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We were talking about this a little before we started the podcast, but I
Mm-hmm.
recently had a guest on, and
Mm-hmm.
she's a published author, and she said,
Mm-hmm.
write the book that's your book, and write
Mm-hmm.
the way you write.
Yeah.
There is no wrong way, and
Yep.
I love the fact that you still put pen to paper.
Yeah.
I don't do that. And I mean, I have diaries and journals from, and I have terrible handwriting. And
Yeah. So do I.
yeah. And once in a while, I'll go back and, I'll look at them and it's
Mm-hmm.
nice to read.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't at all now. And if I
Yeah.
have an idea, I dictate
Mm-hmm.
it or I write it in my notes on my phone
Mm-hmm.
usually.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm always fascinated by people who still use pen and paper because I think that
Mm-hmm.
it is a different experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a
Yeah.
connectedness to the written word. It's
Oh yeah.
right. It requires,
There's something about that
yeah.
definitely, I don't know, it moves me. I do like
Mhm.
when I do that. I don't usually that comes to me with, kind of the ideas and build, like writing the story in the middle of the night, but it's not something that I do all the time. But when I do it, it feels so good, and I do feel very, connected in a different way
Mhm.
to the story than when I'm writing it using a computer. It's much like, reading with your Kindle, or
Right.
reading with an actual book.
Yeah.
I think it's just something very different about that feeling, but it doesn't mean it's wrong or right. It's
No.
just different because nowadays, kids, the young people, they just don't even understand the concept of taking a pen and a paper and writing with that. You know, my
Yeah.
kids were homeschooled, so they learned to write with a pen and a paper. But I know a lot of kids that just like, what? Pen, paper? What?
Well, our listeners will be happy to know that if your children are in the Italian school system and the Italian public school system, you absolutely still write with pen and paper.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's really
it's
cool.
my daughter, I mean, is about to, in June, she's going to sit for her 3-day final
Mhm,
exams. It's all
mhm,
written by hand,
mhm.
except for the
Wow,
oral part, which is
that's crazy.
crazy. 6 hours, right? Each session of handwriting.
That's crazy in a good way. I mean, crazy that
Well,
we
we
have
did it,
technology, but like, yeah,
but we did it, right?
yeah.
I mean,
Well, there's something about that
mm,
my daughter. Okay, so my daughter did go to the Italian school for a little bit,
Mm,
And then she went back to homeschool because she, felt like, oh, mom, I want to go back to homeschool. So she did.
I don't blame her.
But yeah. And then she went ahead and went to college in California.
Hmm.
And then after a year and a half or 2 years, she transferred to John Cabot, which is an American school
Yeah.
in Rome. But there was something about the way that John Cabot teaches that's very much Italy centric,
Hmm.
centric. It's more not like America. And my daughter, especially, she majored in English lit. She said, Mom, I learned so much more at John Cabot, the way, and also in when she was in school in Italy, than she learned in her program, where my daughter-in-law, who went to, and I take nothing away from her, she is brilliant. She also is an English lit major. She went to school through the American system, and it's just different.
It's
And
different.
yes, and she appreciates it much more learning it through, Italy than she did when she went to the American university,
Hmm.
which was a good university. So
Yeah.
it's
It's just it's a totally different system. I
mhm.
think it's the criticism would be that it's a little too rigid.
Yeah.
And then the sort of the benefit is that it's very rigorous. And so
Hmm.
it's sort of like, it's not for everybody, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to get back to your novel. I don't want you to feel like you have to reveal too much, but you sort of
Hmm.
very casually mentioned that it is
Hmm.
a psychological thriller. It's a crime novel.
Hmm.
And you know that you and I have had many, many conversations about it. I
Hmm.
it is something, it's a genre that intrigues me. I'm also
Hmm.
deeply impressed that you're able to write crime fiction or, a psychological thriller, because for me, it seems like such a challenging genre to write.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
could you tell us more about the novel and
Sure.
how the idea came to you, and also about your wonderful main protagonist, who I like to say is a total badass. Um, so just without, feeling free to to leave out any spoilers, but I would love to
Yeah.
hear more about how the idea came to you,
Hmm.
and what it's all about.
Yeah. And yes, so you know that I told you that that wasn't this isn't the first genre that I have attempted to write. I've written uh, a women's fiction, romance. That was always the John, it was always like literary, that kind of genre. That's where I was kind of going to for many years. And like you, I thought, I could read crime or psychological thrillers, but not really write it, because
Yeah.
it's, like the thought of that is just like, wow, that's such a huge thing. That's just not my thing. But um, somehow the idea came to me, and I said, okay, I'll try, I'll attempt, I'll see if I could do this. And so uh, the way the story goes, and I've told you this, I think, a couple times. I was in Rome visiting my daughter when she was in the university, and she was in school, and I, took a walk. I went to the grocery store, and I was being followed by a man, and it made me angry. The thought of this man following me, because I thought about my daughter, and I thought, if this man is following me and I'm, you know, a woman of a certain age, I'm older, like, like, what is happening, to my daughter? What is she experiencing on her walk to school every day? But I think that, when I think about it, that anger came from that. It came from, what was happening, in the world, feeling like, women's rights were being taken away, things that had happened in my past, stories that I had read on the internet, and my fears about what could possibly happen to my own child. And it made me steaming mad angry. I wasn't scared. I was angry. And I wanted to hurt this man for following me. I
Yeah.
wanted to turn around and scream at him, what makes you think you had the right to, follow me and scare me? And so instead of doing that, I was on the phone with my brother. I just started I said to my brother really loud, I wanted this guy to hear me. I said, "Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go home and I'm going to write a story about a woman that's a serial killer that kills men, that hurts women, And this is kind of giving away some of the things. But that is where, that story came from. And I'm like, and he's going, I started, kind of being very descriptive about the things that she's going to do, to this
I can only
man.
imagine.
And I'm like saying it really loud, sounding like a crazy person. And this man, I think he, was like, she's nuts. And he crossed the street. After a while, he stopped following me because, and I just kind of, I said, you know what? My brother was like, you know what? While I'm telling him this story, he's like, that sounds really good. You should really write that. So I'm like, I said, are you serious? And he said, yeah, no, I'm serious. I want you to really write that story. So I went home and I started writing the story. And it just started coming out of me. And then I thought to myself, I am not a crime thriller writer. What am I doing? Like, I don't know how to do this. So at that point, I just said, I need to find, a writer's retreat, and I need somebody to teach me how to do this. So I took a writer's retreat. I found a writer's retreat in Greece, and it was a 10-day writer's retreat. And the guy that ran the retreat, was husband and wife. The husband was he was a crime thriller author. And so, I thought, what better way, to learn, get some hands-on training on how to do this. And it's not that he taught me how to write a crime thriller, but what it was is I was, at this retreat with, like, I don't know, 10 or more other ladies around my age, all first time, authors. They were just starting their career, and so it was, and we all had this mission to, and later in life do this thing. So there was this camaraderie, and then there was this confidence that I could do this. And so that was really what it gave me. It gave me a boost of confidence, that, if I had a story, I could do this. And so, and that's where it all began.
And where are you right now in the process?
Oh my gosh. I am in the draft process, not drafting the first, not drafting the second. So it's kind of like I'm in that process of trying to just get it to editing, I guess you could say, a place where I can then give it to a, an agent and see where it goes from there. So, and this part honestly has been more intimidating for me than getting the initial story out,
Yeah.
because there was just this naive excitement about I could do this, and getting it all on paper, and then once I did, then giving it to people to, my people to edit that I had. And then, I was like, like getting it back and like, okay.
But
So, but that's been good because the drafts haven't been exactly this, like, okay, so I understand some things, and it's just helped me to grow. And so, yeah.
and you use the word naive, and like I I just think
Hmm.
there's something so beautiful when you feel
Hmm.
a story so strongly that
Hmm.
you just need to write it. And
Hmm.
I think what's naive is for us
Hmm.
to think that like every book out there that's published hasn't
Hmm.
been through maybe thousands of edits.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember? Because we were at the Florence Literary Society, which I call out a lot in this
Mm-hmm.
podcast, but we were at an event with
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of writers and
Mm-hmm.
agents,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if you remember, but one of the writers was talking
Mm-hmm.
about the way her book just completely transformed, right?
Yeah.
And I think we tend to have this this idea of perfection, or,
Mm-hmm.
we, again, we're very hard on ourselves and think like, oh, well, like, I love my story. Yeah, well, a
Mm-hmm.
story can be great and a book can
Mm-hmm.
be great, but that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean it doesn't require a lot of work.
Yeah.
So for me, it's been very humbling,
Mm-hmm. That's a
like,
great word.
right? Like, really
Yes.
humbling. But at the same time, like, I think I told you even one of the last
Mm-hmm.
times we spoke that, like, I just did maybe the sixth edit of my book.
Mm-hmm.
Going through it, I was
Mm-hmm.
so much more free. Like, I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I don't need this, and I can
Yeah.
cut this out. And so I think when you write, like, your story it was fueled by this rage.
Mm-hmm.
And you had this
Mm-hmm.
vision, and then you
Mm-hmm.
had the whole thing play out in your head.
Mm-hmm.
And and then so there is a sense of, of I don't know, like, allegiance to your story, or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
whatever, because it's not, again, it's not naivete, it's
Mm-hmm.
excitement, and that's
Yeah.
wonderful. That's
Yeah.
something we need to hold on to in our lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wonder,
Mm-hmm.
possibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of times we
Mm-hmm.
need to remember all the time that writing is hard, and it's
Yeah.
skill, and it takes
Yeah.
work, and you have to go back and you have to rework things, and having people look at your work can be very
That's
intimidating.
yes. And that's the humbling part too.
Yeah.
And also the scary part for me because the people that are looking at it now, they look at it and they're very harsh. But I know they love me.
Yeah.
I am so scared to send this thing off to someone who doesn't love me. It's like,
Who doesn't love you? Like, how is that even possible? No, but I say this all the time too, but a friend of mine who's a fellow writer,
Mhm,
an excellent writer,
mhm.
he said to me, when we were talking about pitching, which is pitching
Mhm.
is the worst. It's like,
Oh God, I'm
it's just,
horrible at it, by
oh,
the
me
way.
too. Me too. But also just like, here I am. Here's my
Yeah,
book. Come on.
yeah, yeah.
I promise
Mhm.
you'll love it. And we're just talking about how hard it is. And, he
Yeah.
reminded me, it just takes one person.
Yes.
Just takes one person, and
Mhm,
he tells me the story of the Beatles,
mhm, mhm,
how, a lot of people get a whole lot of rejection
mhm.
before they get that one person
Yeah.
who believes in their work.
Yeah.
And I think I always say that writing my novel was the easiest thing.
Yeah.
What I'm going through now is the hardest thing. So
Yes.
the
Yeah.
whole pitching process and trying to find representation and thinking about,
Mhm,
like, do I try to publish this thing myself? Do I just
mhm.
stick it out and wait for somebody to notice? And
Yeah.
so there are all these things that I think are just not even there when you're so involved in your story. You had a
Yeah.
story to tell, and you
Yeah.
were telling it, and that's what you
Mhm,
have to hold on to.
mhm,
So I'm curious, because
mhm,
your story was inspired by this episode, which is unfortunate, and it happens a lot, all
mhm,
over the world, unfortunately. Um,
mhm,
but it was inspired by this moment in Italy.
mhm,
But
mhm.
the book does not take place in Italy. It takes place
Yep.
in the States. Um,
Mhm.
do you find, though, that Italy has inspired other stories in you, or would you ever consider setting one of your novels or stories in an Italian context? Is that one in your dreams or in your thoughts?
I could never say no to that because, uh, as you know, as a fellow writer, author, that our stories are reflections of, who we are and where we are in life and, our past and, just, and so, yes, like s- Italy is a big part of now I can say who I am. a part of who I am, a part of my story. And so, of course, it's going to be weaved in there in, in everything, even though it doesn't take place in Italy, there's something, in every story that I write from here out on out, since it's become such a big part of me that it's going to be a part of everything that I, do. And so yes, I could, to answer your question, yes, I could definitely see that.
Do you think Italy has been good to you in terms of your creativity?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you can't get inspired here, where in the world can you get inspired? All the rich history and beauty. And, you know, I think had someone been following me in the States, I would be afraid. In Italy, I was angry.
Yeah.
And because I don't know, it was something very, I did not feel like I was in danger of losing although I could have been. I didn't feel like they were going to do anything to my life. I thought
Yeah.
he wanted to, you know, steal from me. But it brought on other feelings of, things. And so, um, even that, like it allowed me to reach inside of me and create this story. And I just out of that, and I'm not sure that I think it would have been much, even though this does darker or different in the States. So there is something very beautiful and romantic, even in this crime thriller, about Italy, and that comes out in everything that I feel like I'm writing, as long as I'm here, and I've had this wonderful experience of being here. And I am a spiritual person, so I do believe like the spirit of this country there, has this rich culture and history and all of these things. And so, I just feel more connected to that being here.
Yeah.
So
I
that
love
makes.
I love that answer. I want to ask you two
Hmm.
final questions.
Sure.
I'll start with the first. The first is your life has taken an unusual path, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
uh, both the move to Italy and also this decision to finally
Hmm.
listen to your heart. So, I mean, you and I talk a lot about being moms. It's something,
Hmm.
we talk about a lot. You're also a grandmother, which is impossible to leave because to believe because you look like 30. But anyway,
Oh, thank you.
whatever. But is there any advice you would give to someone out there who's listening to us and
Mhm.
hasn't quite found the courage yet to follow their dreams, whether that be to move abroad or to write their book or whatever it might be?
Uh, yes,
Mhm.
I. Um, People say like, oh, like everyone isn't, like you, someone that just follows their heart and just goes out and does what. And I just want to encourage people to, I think that we have been conditioned to push down our voice, especially women, ignore our voice, ignore what's deep inside of our heart, and that thing that's deep inside of you that's always screaming to come out. I encourage women to listen to that thing, even in terms of like danger. When there's danger around us, we don't listen. Oh well, we're gonna hurt this person's. Oh, so I won't. No, listen to your instincts,
Yeah.
listen to your heart, and forget about what other people are going to think about you and what other people are going to feel. Listen to that deep thing it's not going to steer you wrong. it's something in your gut that I'm going to say this because this is what I believe in. It's something that it's like a baby that God has put inside of you. And so you need to allow that thing to grow and to thrive and to, you have to nurture that thing. You have to listen to that and not abort it, and
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
listen to it. That's might be like a wrong triggering word to say, but listen to that thing inside of you. I promise you, it may not be easy. A lot of things might, because, like, if you hear the story, it is not, oh, I went to Italy and roses. No, it was not. It was a journey. But at least, at the very least, this is what I know. I'm on my path to where I know I'm supposed to be, doing what I know I'm supposed to be doing, even if it's difficult. And there's a peace in that, and there's a joy in that that you cannot get from, like, earning the most amount of money or marrying the most handsome man or that, but listen to that. There's a reason why we have the patriarchy. There's a reason why, like, they tell us not to, they want to silence our voice. And I encourage you and challenge us as women. I'm speaking to women, but anybody can listen to this. Listen to that voice inside, and ignore the other voices.
I am so 100% in agreement with you. And I'm really glad you said that. I'm really glad I asked you the question. We totally went off script today, and I'm thrilled that we did.
Yeah, we did.
Because I think it's important
Mhm,
that the people out there who are listening,
mhm.
especially women, hear that.
Yeah,
And I don't think we were told that. You
yeah,
talked about conditioning, and
yeah,
it was something actually we were told maybe the exact opposite. Um, you know, and
mhm,
if I think about now how much time I wasted in my life, or let's
yeah,
not say wasted, but how
yeah,
much time I spent worrying about
mhm,
other people or listening to other voices and really
mhm,
not listening to my inner voice.
mhm.
That's the best piece of advice I would give as well to anyone
Yeah,
who's listening. Just really heed that voice. It's there for a
mhm.
reason. So I
Oh, yeah.
really thank you for that. So as you're okay, last question. So you're doing your final edits on your book, which I know is going to
Mhm,
be the first of a series. I
mhm,
really I your character is so great and so rich.
mhm.
I love I just it's such I can't wait to read it. I've only read, the pitch and the synopsis, but I know
Mhm.
that I can't wait to see it when you are finally completing these edits.
Yeah.
So what is next for you?
So the next thing is, hopefully, obviously, I told you this is the first in a series, but my daughter and I want to write something together. And so I'm excited about, like, that. We already have the story, like the basis of the story. And it's now we have to, after all of this is done, because both of us have so many things on our plates right now. But that's the next thing, other than continue to write more, because this is what I love doing. And also want to not forget to say this, which has nothing to do with writing. I used to work in nonprofit years ago. I had started a nonprofit organization that helped women that were survivors of domestic violence and trafficking. And I stepped away from that, and I've stepped away for many years, and and it's bubbling in me again to step back into that, and that's what I want to do.
I really I'm glad that you said that. And as you say it, I see how important that work is to you and
Yeah,
how important it is to so many people. So
yeah.
I'm grateful to you for I'm grateful that that's bubbling inside of you. And if we know anything from this conversation, it's that if once you once you get that idea, you're definitely going to go and
Mhm.
do it. And I really look forward to hearing more about the project with your daughter. I love that. I love it on so many levels. I think the idea of doing a project with your child, a creative project,
Mhm.
writing a book together, it's such a phenomenal experience. And so I wish
Yeah.
you both the best of luck. I wish you luck with, finishing the book and with the pitching. And
Mhm.
I can't wait to hear how everything turns out. Thank you so much for
Thank
coming.
you, Fosca. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
It's been a pleasure. Grazie.
Ciao. Take care.